desde la cabina más importante de Long Island, en New York. Infórmate de lo que pasa en tu barrio. En 3, 2, 1. Arrancamos. Anthony from the Neighborhood en Latino Mixx. Dale play a tu bocina.
Bienvenido, mi gente. Aquí estamos sábado a las 11 de la mañana con tu programa favorito From the Neighborhood. And this is a great show, as it is every single week. You guys basically just came off of a really good show. I mean, the show before this one was amazing. The one after this is amazing. But this is your 1 hour, which is a sweet hour between us two, just having a great time. And really, I mean, tell a friend. Don't be shy. Don't be greedy. Tell a friend about what's going on here from the neighborhood, Saturday, 11 o'clock here on your favorite station, Latino Mixx. Aquí estamos, señores. Nosotros vamos a hablar de muchos vecindarios y conocer a esa gente locales. Y esta es tu hora en la semana, sábados a las 11, para que nosotros nos podamos comunicar y conocer nuestro vecindario. So, how do you get in touch with the station? Very easy. LatinoMixx con 2x.com y también en Instagram, Facebook, en todas las páginas y las redes sociales. And with me, it's very easy. From the Neighborhood on Instagram, Facebook, and on every single place you can look. Type in From the Neighborhood. You're definitely going to find your boy. So aquí estamos nosotros en la estación. Nos estamos pasando muy bien. Hemos creado la aplicación en el App Store y también en Google Play. So asegúrese de bajar la aplicación. Ahí van a saber de súper chéveres eventos y mucho más cosas donde se pueden registrar y recibir gran premios. So it's a great thing. Get on the App Store. Get on Google Play. Download the app and check out what Latino Mixx is doing, well, in your neighborhood. And I've got some really cool stuff going on for today. And I'm really looking forward to us really just having a great time. I mean, when it's Saturday, you want to celebrate. When it's Saturday, you want to have a great time. So with that, guys, I'm going to go to a quick music break because I just want to celebrate. Let's go.
No te muevas. Regresamos en tan solo minutos. No te muevas. Regresamos en tan solo minutos.
Yeah, otro día de celebrar la vida y así es que nosotros tenemos que vivir agradeciendo cada día y viendo cuáles son las posibilidades de ese día porque tú eres que lo crea. So you're the one who makes your day and this is a day that we have to celebrate and definitely it's because my show's on, but besides that, it's another day in your life and this is how we have to live life, really enjoying every single day of it, every moment, and really just having a good time. I mean, we were lucky to simply be born. And with that, guys, I want to make sure that you can represent your neighborhood and show some support to this show and basically jump on my website, fromtheneighborhood.com, and jump on. And as I put out this shameless plug, I'm really asking you guys to support me by getting some of the gear and representing your neighborhood. So jump on my website and pick up the shirts that say, hey, I am Queens, I am Brooklyn, you know, or some of these neighborhoods that I visited myself and actually shot video in and had a good time. I really had a great time getting a chance to know some of these places from a very different perspective. So go ahead and jump on there and pick up some of the gear. There's a lot of cool stuff on there. And I really can't wait for us to go ahead and maybe, I don't know, have a good time in your neighborhood because the guys at Latino Mixx are getting into neighborhoods every single day. And they're doing many different things, a whole bunch of events, especially out here in Long Island. So I'm a Brooklyn, Queens guy. I'm going to drag them out there to the city and say, hey, man, you guys got to do something out here. So, señores, ya saben cómo apoyarme en la página fromtheneighborhood.com. Puedes recorrer cualquiera de estas camisas. O sea, no hay ninguna otra como esta. This is cool. If you're watching it on the video, you're going to see one of mine. So go ahead and pick them up because we've got amazing stuff happening. And, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Jump on the email newsletter. Consíguese su dirección electrónica y ponla en la página de internet y ahí se consigue un descuento. So, hey, why not, guys? So I've got a lot of cool stuff. This show is going to be totally worth it. I got somebody who is going to get your mind going because just to introduce them a little bit, they had their own journey. Ellos han tenido su propia jornada en su vida donde han cumplido cosas que han sido, bueno, bien interesantes. Cosas que tal vez te esté aguantando a ti. Bueno, esta persona tuvo esos mismos retos y pudo lograrla y pudo superar. So I think it's really interesting when we find people that are in our own neighborhoods who had challenges, who had difficulties, and yet they still moved ahead. And they were scared, and they were maybe, I don't know, maybe reluctant. Maybe they were even told by their own friends, hey, you're not going to make it in this thing. Well, I've got a guest who's going to talk to us about that story. Not only that, but also the neighborhoods in which she grew up in. And I'm really excited, guys. This is going to be a super cool show. And definitely, just like all the other shows, but definitely a show that's really well worth it. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to come right back as my guest gets on here. And we're going to have a good time talking to you guys all about their life and the neighborhoods. See you soon.
No te muevas. Regresamos en tan solo minutos. De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Yes, y aquí estamos, señores, como le había prometido con mi invitada, que nos va a hablar de muchas cosas, aparte de su vecindario, pero eso sí tuvo una gran influencia, como también todos nosotros, right? We are all influenced by our neighborhood, and we've got to recognize that our neighborhoods are where people come from. So when you have this celebrity, this superstar, this amazing athlete, they came out of some neighborhood where they had a friend across the street, they went to the grocery store on the corner, and we shared a lot of things in common. And then they just chose a different career path, and now, I don't know, they're living in Hollywood or whatever the case is. But this neighborhood struck a chord with them and made them who they are. So, dándole atributo a los vecindarios que nos hizo quién nosotros somos y quién nosotros podemos hacer, I have a guest today. Tengo una invitada de una área local, and actually, I'm going to go back to Brooklyn, where basically I started, right? And that's a person that has not just stayed in Brooklyn, but moved on to other things. So with this, folks, I want to go ahead and invite Jessica Rivera to the studio.
Yay.
Thank
you for having me.
You like the round of applause?
I love it.
It's like, hey, how
making
you
me
doing?
feel really special.
Yeah. No, we got a great crowd here. We got a great crowd. You know, they pay attention to the sign when we put it up.
I see that.
They're like, oh, it's applause. Okay, got it. And they keep going. I love it. Yes. All right, you guys can calm down now. You guys can calm down. You know, they're really happy to have you here.
I see that.
They're like, oh, life coach. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump right into it, because you're impacting a lot of people, right? Ha tenido un buen impacto en muchas personas, and now you really launched this into something completely, like, it's something where people are like, oh, they're attracted to you at this point, right? And probably that's why we're getting all the applause. So Jessica Rivera, should I say life coach? How should I introduce you?
So I'm actually a mindset coach, but you know, it's so funny, and I didn't correct you before because people get that kind of mistaken, and it's easy to do so. But a life coach is more, they do strategy. So if you, let's say, want to buy a house or you want to get a job, a life coach will help you get there. Mindset coaching is more internal, your internal thoughts, limiting beliefs. So we're really looking more internally. And that's why if you people do relate it to life coaching, but when you look at the things that I say in my posts on Instagram, it's more like, how are you affecting your life?
I like that even more because, you know, honestly, like a lot of the conversation I have here on the show is like your own mind, what you're thinking, right? And what it creates.
Correct.
So throw away the life coach thing. Mindset coach. Love it.
We are mindset coach. Yeah. So I'm actually a business and mindset coach but I believe we're all just one person, right?
So you add a business component to this.
Yeah. Because I've been, I was in corporate America for many, many years. I led teams. I was an individual contributor in sales. And so a lot of that has to do with your mindset when you're selling, right?
Yes.
And then you're also throwing the component of leading a team, leading a $4 billion department. It was a lot.
hey. I mean, it sounds like a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, 4 billion, that's a lot of zeros.
Exactly.
Well,
so I really had to work on
myself. Let's go back to your humble beginnings, because when you start, cuando uno comienza, uno dice, oh, yo estoy viviendo en cualquier lugar. Puede ser un lugar que sea un vecindario rico, un vecindario pobre. En realidad, es la mente de uno. So when you grew up there, what were certain things that influenced you to start picking up your career and get you to manage $4 billion?
Yeah. I think my mindset was small, right? There's so many great memories. We lived in a home. Actually, if you want to back up even more, the first place I remember living with my family is in Ridgewood, Queens. And
Ridgewood. Hey, what's up? I'm from Bushwick, and I grew up in Ridgewood as well. Yeah.
It's like the neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And then we moved over the hill to Cypress Hills.
Yes.
Right? But in Ridgewood, we lived in a 4-family home right on Cypress. And I don't remember the cross streets, but they tried to buy that home. They wanted to buy a home, my parents, and they tried to buy a home, and it was a big German community at the time.
What years were this?
Early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And the guy wouldn't sell it to them because they were Puerto Rican.
I relate to you. Similar story happened to us. We were in Bushwick, and we were trying to buy a home on St. Nicholas Avenue. And that was my parents' first home, together. And they had the same difficulty. Like, truthfully, like it's a shame, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just an exchange of currency.
Correct.
But for some reason, the entry was a little difficult. And I feel like that's happened in many communities. And honestly, that I think is a big contributor to a lot of people's limiting beliefs, because they feel like, I'm in a box, right? So, señora, una cosa que nosotros tenemos en común, yo te conocí conociendo que tú vives en Brooklyn, right? Pero no supe que tú estabas en Ridgewood, que es una parte donde yo pasé gran parte de mi vida. Y teníamos cosas en común de que tuvimos problemas, pero no solamente en siendo aceptado en la comunidad, pero tus padres comprando algo, siéndose dueño de algo en la comunidad. That was a challenge, right?
It was a big challenge, and I think my like you said, that does contribute to a person's limiting beliefs, right? Because now it's like, oh, people are prejudiced against me because they wouldn't even sell my parents a home. Like you said, it's an exchange of currency.
Yeah.
So we ended up going to the other side of the hill, and they bought their first home on Chestnut.
Okay.
Right off of Jamaica.
Yes.
And so that was our first home. It was a 2-family home. And then we had a basement. And so we lived there only for 5 years. But they were so, like, those were like the years that shaped me. And our entire block knew each other. I mean, we had, the black families, the Puerto Rican families, the white families, all the kids hung out together. It was like your true neighborhood style block.
Yeah, yeah.
But to me, that was like almost making it.
What did you play on the block? Like you played stickball, you played
we played
kickball.
Everything. We played stickball, manhunt, which wasn't manhunt, it was like hide and seek back then.
Yes. Hide and seek.
It was hide and seek back then, but every single kid knew each other on the block. It was so beautiful. Yeah. And then when we moved out of there, I actually moved to Queens, but I felt like the coolest person in the neighborhood because I was from Brooklyn. Like in my mind, you couldn't tell me anything.
What part of Queens?
I moved to Queens Village.
Queens Village, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, everybody's corny and I'm the coolest thing on the block because
you're from Brooklyn.
Because I'm from Brooklyn.
What does Brooklyn do to people? ¿Qué es lo que hace Brooklyn? ¿Qué es lo que llega a instalar en tu vida? Right?
It gives you swagger.
Anda por donde quiera y dice Brooklyn y todo el mundo te tiene que respetar, abrirte puertas. Like, how is it that Brooklyn gives you this kind of attitude? What was it?
It gives you this automatic swag, right? Yeah. Like, I got swagger because I'm from Brooklyn. Like, don't even talk to me. You already know what it is.
Wow. And so the part you were in Brooklyn was called Cypress Hills.
Yeah.
And I know Cypress Hills. I bought my first home there on Euclid.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Euclid, yes, right around the corner from Blessed Sacrament.
Oh, so, yeah. We lived in the same neighborhood.
Ridgewood Ave, yeah. I was so that was a few years back for me, but like I knew, like there was a connection with Brooklyn, even though I was living in Ridgewood. Brooklyn was only 3 or 4 blocks away.
Exactly.
But it was this connection that I kept going back. And I don't know what it was, sometimes it's the topography, right? Lo que se encuentra en ese vecindario, la geografía, los parques, donde uno puede ir de compras. But other times it's not even the geography. It's more like just the fun you have.
Yeah.
And I remember the block being the way you described it.
Yeah. Everybody knew each other. And I think for me, you said you went back, and the reality is, so my parents had their house in Brooklyn, and then we moved to Queens, but they kept their home in Brooklyn and they rented it.
Okay.
And I remember when I was 16 years old, my parents were thinking about selling the house. And I said, well, why would you do that? What if we want to live there when we grow up? And we did. We all moved back. Wow. I ended up living there for 9 years. My sister lived on the first floor. I lived on the second floor, and my brother lived in the basement. And the kids loved it because they felt like they had like this huge home because they would just go into everybody's apartment.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. So I actually, while I had my high school years in Queens, I actually lived in Brooklyn longer than I did in Queens.
Yeah, the formative years, right?
Yes.
So la edad que te crean ser tu adulto, o sea, tal vez, no sé, voy a estimar, 8 años, 7 años llegaste a Brooklyn? Were you like 8, 7 years old? So like maybe about 13?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was 3rd grade to 8th grade.
I didn't know that. So I'm just taking a guess because I'm reading like your stories.
I know you're guessing because I had to do the math right before I walked in here because I didn't remember.
Yeah, la cosa es que uno ve en la persona y uno encuentra como que se están contando historia de su niñez, right? And these are formative years, right, of your childhood. And you meet with somebody, you're like, you're playing these games, you had to be about this old, right? You have these memories, it had to be around this age. Yeah. And those are beautiful times in your life where you really get to experience like the joy, the pain, the sunshine and the rain, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Those are the times that you really get to enjoy life. And I think those are the most colorful moments in life. So despite any upset, you know how you fall, you bruise your knee and all that stuff. Like when you're a kid, you get hurt, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But you love it. It's like the next day you're out to play.
It's funny. You asked, what is it about Brooklyn? But I will tell you, that makes you tough.
Yeah.
Right? I was Believe it or not, I actually got into physical altercations. And in Brooklyn, when I was like, I remember my first actual fight with a girl, which was like my friend, was like in the 4th grade. It was like, go out to the backyard.
You didn't even have hoop earrings at that time.
I didn't even have hoop earrings or Vaseline at that time to put on. But I remember my cousin, I was like, he's like, you got into a fight?
Wow.
Well, I'm going to have to teach you how to fight. And my 4th grade school photo has like a rug burn here because we were like, he was literally teaching me how to fight.
Really?
So, it makes you tough. And I guess that's another reason why when I ended up moving to Queens, like, I didn't start any fights, but hey, if you wanted me to, I was going to end them.
That was amazing. Well, that's beautiful. Listen, I'm going to go to a quick break here because there was a lot of colorful stories that you had to share there. And I know if we get into it deeper, like your cousin's going to be like, no, that wasn't me. So I'm going to go to a quick break here, guys, with one of my favorite jams, which is going to illustrate maybe your childhood. Let's go with that.
No te muevas. Regresamos en tan solo minutos. De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Yes, y aquí estamos después de esa chévere canción. I love that song. And we come back to Jessica, and we're talking about your childhood. That's what we were talking about, and how interesting it was, and all the little fights you get into, and all the
literally
all the games you play, and it's over the silliest stuff, right?
I couldn't even tell you what it was. I mean, we were in the 4th grade. How old are you now?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, you're like friends by like 2 hours later, right?
Exactly.
This is that kind of thing where you're like, you're not my cousin no more. But then like 2 seconds later, you're like, hey, can I hang out with you?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, that's the difference between living in the boroughs and living in Long Island. Because when my kids grow up, we're growing up. I have older adult children. Those moms take it so serious. I'm like, they're going to be friends in an hour. Don't worry about it.
No, you know what? And in the city, you don't have that choice of like being apart from one another. You're on top of one another. So you gotta figure this stuff out.
Exactly.
And I really want people to find a way to connect with you because, a lot of times we get so caught up on the day-to-day that we forget to like catch up on those stories. So what's an easy way, social media, whatever it is, what's an easy way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, the easiest, I usually hang out on Instagram. So, I mean, DM me. I always answer my DMs. You can find me at Coach Jessica Rivera on Instagram.
And that's one word.
That's one word.
Coach Jessica Rivera, one word on Instagram. Go ahead and look it up on Instagram. Give her a quick follow.
Yeah.
And just shoot her a message and tell her like, hey, who's the person you fought? This is really cool. Did you play at the fire hydrant too?
Oh, of course. Of course we played at the fire hydrant. I mean, I used to love going, my family, all of us, we used to go to Highland Park. It's still a beautiful park in Brooklyn on Jamaica. And I mean, even in the winter, we'd go sledding there. I mean, we have so many good memories.
It's even
there.
nicer now. I went by there the other day. They got a new playground for the kids. And I used to play softball there. I had a guest here. We talked about it. And now they, extended it with the reservoir.
Oh, beautiful.
So if you go around the reservoir, this thing used to be abandoned. So now they put it back together again, but it's, it's a nice walking trail. It's a nice, place to enjoy.
Oh, I'll definitely have to go by.
Yeah.
I remember it. It's just so many good memories.
If you like jogging, you like working out, that's a good place to run.
I hate jogging, but I don't really love working out, although I do it all the time because I like the way it makes me feel after the fact.
Well, I went on your Instagram and there's a lot of working out going on. So my bad.
I know. But that goes back to mindset, right? You have to do what makes you feel good. And although I don't like it, once I'm there, I love it. And the after effects is what I love.
All right. Well, let's get into that right now because you had a big mindset shift.
Yeah.
You told me that your mind was playing a very small game, right? El juego en tu mente era bien pequeño. Y ahora nosotros estamos hablando de recuerdos de antes, pero tú tuviste un cambio grande llegando a lo que es tu carrera o lo que fue tu carrera. Because there's more to say. Pero lo que llegó a ser tu carrera fue cambio de la mente, right? Thinking differently. So now, let's talk about that. Mindset shift. And you get into this career. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to, I'll try to give you like the edited version of my life, but
yes, no fights.
No, we're out of that one. But I had my first child at 19 years old, and I think having a kid at 19, you feel like, all right, at least I did. Me and this kid against the world. I had a great support system. My family, my parents were amazing, but I wanted to support him, and I wanted to be on my own, and I wanted to prove to myself and everybody else that I could do it. Probably more to myself because I didn't really have that. I made that pressure myself on my own. And so me and his father were not together. And then fast forward, because you spoke about a pivotal moment. And when I think about the most pivotal moment in my life, or one that I can think of,
Yeah.
is then I was then in a really long-term relationship. I had another son. So I have 2 boys right now in this moment. I'm 27 years. I had first at 19 and then 27.
Yeah.
And my ex ended up going to prison. And at that time I wasn't working.
Right.
And so I was like, oh my God, now I have no job. I didn't own anything.
Right,
I lived
right.
in the apartment in Brooklyn. I can't live there forever. I mean, I guess I could have, but in my mind, I couldn't. I wanted more. I wanted more for me and my kids. And
was there something you saw? Was there something maybe you even looked into your child's eyes and you saw their future? Was there something like that really triggered it?
I think for me, my first son's, and it was just it was the year I turned 30 years old. My first son's father passed. So that was heartbreaking. Like, my poor son doesn't have a father anymore.
Right,
Although my boyfriend at the time was a great stepdad to him.
Correct.
But now months later, he goes to prison. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And our relationship was already very up and down, a lot of love, highs and very low lows. And I'm
so it felt very unstable. You're going through these kind of roller coasters, but something grounded you every single time. Was it family, or was it your neighborhood? What made you feel like, hey, you know what, I'm not alone?
My family, for sure.
Yeah.
My family, for sure. But what I knew was that I did love the neighborhood, but I wanted more. I saw life much bigger. And a lot of that had to do with my ex at the time, because he had he came up with a completely different lifestyle than I did.
Right.
He, his parents were like CEOs and all of that. And I saw the life that he had growing up, and that's what I wanted to give them. But now he's in prison, right? So there's that part. And we had a crazy relationship. So that relationship ends. And I remember my sister was buying her first home. And so we were all still living in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
My sister's buying her first home. My parents were like, well, why don't you? Meanwhile, I had no job, or I had just started a job, maybe, because my ex went to prison. So my parents are like, well, why don't you just think of buying a house? And I'm like, is this woman nuts? Like, I was so upset. I'm like, how am I going to buy a house?
I got to say something, though. Every time you keep talking about all these upsets, I keep seeing that the common denominator is your parents being positive about it. Because even though they had the upset in Ridgewood, señores, ellos tuvieron un gran bloqueo en su vecindario donde no pudieron comprar, siguieron hacia adelante, siguieron tratando. Y aunque tú estabas sin trabajo, teniendo esa circunstancia que pasó con el marido tuyo y todo, ellos siguieron diciendo, cómprate una casa, búscate un lugar. O sea, querían lo mejor para ti. So how is this possible that your parents still stay positive?
Oh, you're making me emotional.
Yeah, because they see something in you, right? And I think that, truthfully, I don't mean to be the one to bring it out of you, right? But I think at the end of the day, like, you're in the business where you do this for so many other people. And if you are seeing this transformation in others, it's because you lived it.
Right.
So, Jessica Rivera no es una persona que lo está haciendo como por decir, es un negocio, es un trabajo y yo simplemente te estoy inspirando para que llene un formulario y me dé un testimonial. No es cosas así, señores. Es una transformación grande cuando una persona está creyendo en ti. Y algunas veces no es una persona que tú idealmente piensas. No es el jefe en tu trabajo, no es un novio, una novia, no es una persona de influencia. Puede algunas veces ser tu niño. Tú ves al niño y dices, tú me estás influyendo a mí a ser mejor. Porque ellos con su inocencia te hacen una pregunta como que, mami, ¿por qué no podemos hacer esto? Y entonces tú mismo te dices, pues, ¿por qué no? Right? Your kid looks at you and said, Mom, why can't we do this? And you say, well, why not? And you start asking yourself a better question than just, why is it like this for me, right?
And there you go. Asking yourself, having a tough conversation with yourself, that's like huge, right? So my mother tells me, why don't you buy a house? And I got so upset. It's so funny thinking back.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom, you were right. But I was so upset. I'm like, what? Long story short, somebody out of the blue calls me out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He just thought of me from somewhere. He said, hey, do you want this job? You can make, and I wasn't making terrible money. I think I was making like $70,000 in the city. Yeah. And he was like, I can help you double your income in a year. Come work in sales.
Okay.
And so I did. And a year and a half later, I bought my first home.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Wow. A year and a half after my mother told me that,
and
maybe less than a year and a half, something like that, a year or a year and a half after my mother told me that, I ended up buying my first home. And so
voice of inspiration, right? Just to get that kind of phone call. Now, out of curiosity, what was the industry, the sector that you got into?
Yeah, so I got into the automotive industry. So when my friend called me, he said, do you want to be a finance manager? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What is a finance manager? And so he's like, well, I'm going to teach you and I can double your income in a year.
So it's basically loans for cars.
Correct.
Right? So, señores, nosotros estamos diciendo que algunas veces tú te encuentras con personas que te abren la puerta, te dan oportunidades, pero hay que pasar por esa puerta. Ella no se negó, tenía un buen trabajo, pero dijo, no, yo le voy a dar una oportunidad. Y le prometieron de que ella pudiera hacer más dinero de lo que estaba haciendo ahorita. Y en año y medio sí pudo lograr lo que era el sueño de comprar su casa, cuando un año y medio anteriormente ella no estaba viendo posibilidad de cómo crecer, right? And this was a lot of these limitations that you felt you were stuck with.
Yeah, and actually we'll have to give my friend that brought me into the auto industry a plug, because he does own a dealership called Stream Auto Outlet in Valley Stream. So I have to.
I'm all about the local people getting some love, and you know, and you let them know you shouted them out, because you know it's really great to see that appreciation come back. So what I really feel is that you finally brought out who you really could become.
That's exactly what happened.
It was like in the closet the entire time, and you brought it out.
Correct. And I will say that it takes time. It takes time, right? Because it was like, oh wait, now I can make more money. Oh wait, now I can. So I ended up in corporate America and really growing my my brand.
Yeah.
And so people in one of my sons worked in the auto industry for a little while, and he was like, "Mom, you're a big deal." I'm like, I tried to tell you, I am a big deal.
What were you selling? What kind of cars?
So I was originally I was at a used car lot, but when I ended up in corporate America, I was selling auto loans. So I know all the local dealers. I know every dealer in the tri-state.
You went a level up to all the loan products that were out there.
Correct.
Well, listen, guys, you got this inside you. It's up to you to bring it out. Honestly, you cannot be holding back from life and really holding back from all the opportunities and the people that need you. So with that, guys, we're going to go to one of my favorite jams, because you got to go ahead and take those talents and bring them out. Let's go.
No te muevas. Regresamos en tan solo minutos. De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Yeah. Aquí estamos de nuevo con el programa favorito, y aquí estamos con nuestra invitada, Jessica, and we've been talking a lot about the mindset shift and her own personal journey. Because, guys, you don't just get into something like mindset coaching without having your own journey. And Jessica, listen, big applaud to you on all the challenges. And basically looking at these things and saying, you know what it is right now. It will pass, and I will make it into something. So now, automotive loans.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm in the automotive industry. I was in the automotive industry at the time, and male dominated, of course, right? And I'm from Brooklyn, right? And I'm using all my masculine energy to sell. And I'm also leading a team of men that were older than me, some younger than me, all different, And so me wanting to climb that corporate ladder, I had my eye on the prize, right? And so I was working really hard. I had to outwork everybody, outdo everyone. And that's really using that assertive masculine energy all of the time.
Yeah.
Which can come off like, a B word.
Okay.
right? It can come off.
Thank you for keeping it clean for the radio.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it clean for the radio. But it can come off like very aggressive, right? And what I learned was that I also had a manager that was really challenging. Extremely challenging. And for whatever reason, she really had it out for me. I mean, she wasn't the nicest to anyone, but she was especially not nice to me.
I think we put people like that just so we can get better, So it's not necessarily like, oh, why is it like that for me? Remember, guys, we got to get out of this victim mentality, right? And not for nothing, listen, as men, I'm sure a lot of guys did not want to go out to the workforce. I'm sure a lot of guys would have wanted to stay home, and they got that option today because, things have changed. But, they were like, hey, I have to adapt to this, locker room behavior. Otherwise, I'm not going to survive, right?
Exactly.
And so I think, it goes back to probably the times when we were hunting down saber-toothed tigers, right? Nosotros estamos en la jungla atacando un tigre. Nosotros tenemos que estar el más rápido, el más fuerte. Y hemos evolucionado y no andamos con flechas ni nada con que cazar a un animal, pero sí tenemos que darnos cuenta que nosotros todavía estamos actuando un poquito así como en esos tiempos. tal vez no es con esa armas, but we're acting like that and we're hurting each other.
Yeah.
And you come into the workforce, you give a whole different perspective.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
And I would always get like remarks like, oh, you're very New York, or because it was my company. We were remote always. We were always remote. So everybody's like from a different part of the country. And so anyway, I had this boss who was extremely challenging. And I remember one day I was like ready to quit. And I had been at this company. I had loved it for so long. I didn't want to leave just because of one woman, one person. So that's when I really figured I needed to change.
Oh, and it was a woman.
It was a woman. It wasn't a man. While it was a male-dominated industry. But she wanted to be, the top person in charge. And she wanted to make sure that everybody knew it.
So not for nothing, this isn't a battle of the sexes. This actually happens within ego.
Big time ego, big time ego. And I think also fear, right? When you are not confident as a leader, then you're pushing everybody else down.
Hey, here's the mindset coaching right here. Go, Jessica. Go ahead, flex.
Yeah.
Show us what you got.
So I always say, she gave me the gift of really becoming passionate about the way we lead others and the way we lead ourselves. Because she was such a negative impact on many, many people.
Right.
And so I really started doing that inner work.
Yeah.
I became certified as a facilitator for Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, as well as many other. I mean, that's like a classic, amazing book.
Yes. No, why don't you say it a little slower? Señores, este es un libro aquí que yo recomiendo que ustedes lo lean. Yo lo he leído. And just repeat it so people know.
It's a classic. It's called 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
7 hábitos de personas que han sido, triunfantes, o sea, han triunfado. Stephen Covey.
Yeah, Stephen Covey.
And that's Stephen like Stephen King spelling.
Right, exactly. PH.
Yes.
And as well as many other of his books, he has several others. And then I also just started working for myself. And then I hired a coach. Okay, so I was already coaching though in this corporate space because I had my sales team. And in order for them to sell and achieve, they needed to fix their mindset. So I was already working with my professionals on time management, on strategy, on all of those things. And so then I hired my own personal coach. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, wait, this is what I already do at work.
I love that you just said that right there. Let me hang on to that for 1 second. Señores, nosotros alguna vez estamos viendo el trabajo y decimos, oh, lo que dice el jefe. Pero piénsalo. Te están pagando para que tú aprendes. And you started learning all of these things here. You were getting paid to learn and practicing it. And then you converted this over to what you have today. And what you have today, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. And so today I help small businesses and executives really work on communication and mindset in order to increase profit and productivity.
Yeah, because being a small business owner is a lonely place. Right?
Yes, exactly. And even, really small businesses are 500 employees or less.
Correct.
Technically. And so, when you're leading a team, and I see it all the time, there's so many breakdowns in communication because we are afraid, even if you have the coolest boss ever, you are afraid to tell him you don't like his idea or you don't like something, or just to be open and honest, because that's just not what we are accustomed to.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So,
very true.
So that's really what I work with my businesses in my coaching.
Now, you had your own challenges, right? Because you didn't just say, hey, let me leave this job. I'm making this much money a year, and I'm just going to go ahead and start something.
Yeah.
Nobody knows me in this space.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Nadie me conoce, no saben lo que yo estoy haciendo, el producto que yo estoy ofreciendo, las soluciones que yo estoy ofreciendo, pero voy a dejar el trabajo y lo voy a hacer. So, ¿cuáles fueron los miedos? O sea, the apprehension that you had, what was it?
There was a lot of fear. And what's interesting is, it's crazy how we play these mind games with ourselves, because I know I have a proven process because I did it with several people on my team over and over again.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I have a proven process. I know it works. And I know it works with younger folks. I know it works with older men, older women, younger men. Like, I've done it all.
Yeah.
But like you said, I was moving into a space where nobody knew me. No. I literally started an Instagram a year ago.
Did you become your first client?
Well, I was already my first client, right? I was already my first client. I'm like, I know it works.
It was a loaded question, right? Porque eso es lo que pasa. Tú tienes que ser tu primer cliente. O sea, tú estás, vamos a suponer, creando un producto. Nadie te lo va a comprar hasta que tú mismo no estés completamente convencido de que esto funciona. And she became her first client because you had a mindset of your own, right? A mindset shift of your own.
Exactly.
To say, yeah, I could go there. I could do it.
Well, you know what happened also? At work, I had been at this company for 14 or 15 years. And when people started gravitating to me like they never did before, opening up, as soon as they had a challenge, who's the first person they would call? They'd call me. I would show up in meetings very different. I was voicing my opinion. I was saying, I don't think that that's the right solution. I was being assertive in a nice, really balancing my feminine and my masculine energy, where people were like, wow, you said that so good, and you didn't like offend anybody, or I really wanted to be solution-based, not like you're wrong or you're wrong. It's, can we find a different solution? But that takes time. It takes time.
Yeah, it takes time for people to get to know who you are, where you're coming from, what's your intention, and so forth. Exactly. I mean, listen, this is where the mind goes really like all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
La mente de uno siempre va buscando todas las posibilidades, todo lo negativo, lo positivo, y de una manera u otra lo pone a hacer, bueno, que tenga sentido. But a lot of times it doesn't make sense. You're in this place and you're like, I'm going to show you what I got. I'm going to show you what I'm going to bring to the table. But then they get scared. And they're like, oh, are you trying to take us down? Are you trying to take my job? And this is, I think, where we find ourselves in a lot of challenges and truthfully limit ourselves.
Well, that also goes back to communication, right? Because if they're coming in like a freaking bull in a china shop, your message is not going to resonate. Versus if you really think about and be intentional with your words, you can say exactly what you want to say. If you use different words and tone is a big one, it can come out differently and it will be received differently.
Wow.
But again, that has all to do with practice. And many times we are afraid of somebody else judging us when we're really the ones judging ourselves.
Correct.
We're judging the way we think the other person may be judging us.
100%,
it's a hot mess.
100%. Listen, and let me just say this here. Do you mind giving a little tip or something? Maybe because I know you have some free tools on your website, by the way, which you should say your website. You should tell people to get these tools.
Yeah. So
I've seen them.
There's some free tools on my website at I shouldn't have said that, right?
That's okay.
That's old school. Okay, at jrcoaching.net. Forget the WW.
jrcoaching.net.
Yeah.
So you guys can go ahead and download some free tools. But you're going to give me a little tip here because you're on the show, and I really want to hear some tips that are going to be helpful. Maybe something quick that you can, tell them that's really going to help them move forward. So show me what you got.
Okay, so whenever you're feeling like anxiety about being in a meeting and speaking up, right?
Yeah.
So how many of us have been at a meeting, you have this great idea in your mind, and you don't say it, and then the person next to you says exactly what you were thinking of saying?
Ouch, okay. El ejemplo es que están en una reunión y ella tiene una muy buena idea, no lo dice y la persona al lado dice esa misma idea y te quedas tú como mordiéndote la lengua, ¿no? Right? Like you get really upset.
Right? We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say be confident enough to share your idea and also be okay with it not landing, right? Because that's what you're afraid of. You're afraid of, I'm going to look stupid.
Rejection.
The fear of rejection.
Yes.
But the reality is you can say that idea and let's say it doesn't land, but it'll spark another idea in someone else.
Right.
That will actually come to a better solution. So when we are afraid, usually that's ego. That is your ego, boo. So let's remove the ego.
Yes.
And let's share your ideas. And even if they don't land, it is okay.
Hey, lanza la idea porque usted no sabe si se va a pegar el primer día, pero sí puede provocar otro pensamiento en lo que están alrededor y crear una buena solución para todo el mundo. So literally, guys, get out there and show them what you got.
Be vulnerable. Yes, show them what you got.
Show them what you got. I'm going to go to a quick music break with that, and then we can be right back. See you guys soon.
No te muevas. Regresamos en tan solo minutos. De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
You know how to go with that song, right? I had to, right?
Yeah, I loved it. I love Jay-Z.
You got to put it out there. Now, what I want to go back to is the neighborhood. Yo quiero regresar al vecindario because you've left Brooklyn, right? You opened up your mindset, and I want people to know where it took you and how that has actually changed the lives for your kids, your family, and how proud everybody is of you, and really like how this is going for you.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and so I moved. Like I said, I bought my first home, and I remember pulling up to the block. So at the time, I was looking for a home in Queens Village because that's where my parents lived, and that's that was my support system.
Yeah.
And this realtor said, "I have a house. The parents just passed.
Yeah.
I think it'd be perfect for you and the boys." So I go with her, and I remember rolling up to the street and seeing this little blue house and thinking, it would be so perfect.
So did they introduce you to a place you never knew before?
No, I knew it because I don't know if you've gone to New Hyde Park. I live in New Hyde Park, and the only reason I know it is because they have the McDonald's mansion there on Jericho.
Yes. That's right. So, señores, en New Hyde Park hay un McDonald's que parece una casa, una mansión. No es como ningún otro McDonald's restaurant que usted ha visto en ningún otro lugar. So, this is iconic.
Yeah. So I remember the first time I had seen it, we were all like in awe of this McDonald's mansion.
Yeah.
And so I knew the neighborhood because of that, but I always felt like it was like an untouchable neighborhood. Like I couldn't see myself living there at the time. But anyway, everything worked out and we ended up living there. And it was just such a great place to raise my children. It reminded me of the block I grew up on. Everybody was outside. You know, they walked to their friend's house. And it was just now my kids are adult children, but
hey, for people who don't know New Hyde Park, I mean, they know Brooklyn, they've heard me talk of Ridgewood and so forth, but New Hyde Park, I never really got into. When's it a good time to go visit? Like, what's great to go see over there?
Yeah, so in September, they do an amazing block party, not a block party, actually, it's a street fair every year. And they also have an amazing carnival that's in the end of August.
Okay.
Amazing. So they should definitely pass by at that point also.
Okay.
There's great parks. Tully Park is a great park. They have a pool there. And it's just a great neighborhood to be in for sure.
Yeah. And guys, New Hyde Park, I know New Hyde Park is not that far out from Queens or from the city, basically.
It's 2 seconds away. It's like, I was literally like 7 minutes from my parents. So that's why it worked out.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, listen, I want to get into a couple of things here because you're a mindset coach. And I want to just kind of give people a lot of that positive energy, you know, hearing your story and now seeing, you know, for themselves through your website or your Instagram, which you gave out. Maybe they've been looking at it and they're like, wow, she's really doing things. So what's some of the things that you can drop in their mind that's going to keep them positive?
Yeah, I will say that many times, and, you know, we play a victim role, right? We are like, how could they do that to us? Why? And, you know, when we start looking at, okay, well, what part am I playing? And many times, there's this quote from a book that I love from Eckhart Tolle that says, everybody wants peace until somebody upsets them. Right? So it's like, I just want peace, but why the hell did you cut me off?
Yeah.
And so I think we still have a choice. Regardless, we are choosing to be angry or we are choosing peace. No matter what, we still have a choice. And the second I ask myself, when I'm upset, and I call it activated, because of course I still get activated. The second I ask myself, why? What's the real reason? What is really bothering me here? Guess what? Poof, I'm not angry anymore because I'm too busy trying to figure out what is really upsetting me here.
Wow. This is like when I'm with my 2-year-old and I'm distracting them with another toy.
Exactly.
Señores, nosotros tenemos que ver la cosa de un punto de vista bien diferente y cambiar de la manera que nos estamos interpretando lo que es un problema. Porque a veces no es el problema. A veces somos nosotros haciéndolo ser un problema. So, vamos a ver que no sea tan importante, right? Le echamos a un lado y nos podamos concentrar de cómo fue que yo llegué a ponerme tan bravo, right? Or get so upset. How did I get to being so upset when the problem could have just been something I threw to the side? So, again, it reminds me of my 2-year-old.
You brought up a great example, your 2-year-old. Sometimes we have to parent ourselves.
Yes.
And we have to speak to ourselves the way we would speak to our child, to our parent, to our sibling, to our best friend. Because many times we don't.
No. And you really can be whatever you want to be. I really feel that you really can do that. And honestly, like, it's up to us to do it. And guys, listen, this has been a great time having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
I wish I had more time. The guys in the station, give me more than an hour. and for what it's worth, I really want you guys to know that you have the power. And if you feel like any point you're going to slip or you're going to set up something and you have doubts, I mean, reach out to Jessica Rivera right here. I mean, she's got a lot.
I have a wait list for one-on-one clients, but I'm opening it up soon. So please go ahead and let me know. We can always work together.
Just know that there's something out there that you can always do and you can be whatever you want to be. And I really look forward to connecting with you guys in the neighborhood. So until the next show, I'll be seeing you back in the neighborhood.
Desde la cabina más importante de Long Island, en New York, infórmate de lo que pasa en tu barrio. En 3, 2, 1, arrancamos. Anthony from the Neighborhood en Latino Mixx. Dale play a tu bocina.